Hello, I'm Brandon Price, and I've been interested in cinemas for many years now, and lately I've noticed a change. I'm here to uncover what those changes are and what influenced them. Is this the end of cinema?
Well, I can see obviously cinemas are not doing very well.
It can be improved.
Although the cinema industry isn't as talked about as it once was, it is still present today. It was and still is a very competitive industry with many big organisations battling for the top. But it isn't just international organisations that exist in the world of cinema. Local businesses are just as competitive. Even though they are smaller companies, the struggles are just as large as any other. On the Isle of Wight, there have been over 20 cinemas that have come and gone in just 100 years. Most of these cinemas were local establishments such as the Rec Cinema and Playhouse Cinema, but even a multinational company such as Odeon Cinema in Newport was forced to close. In 2019, cinema had already been on a steady decrease in admissions since the late 1950s, and only in the early 90s did the number of cinema goers steady out. Before COVID, ticket sales grossed over 170 million across the UK, but during lockdown it went down to just 44 million. That is a massive decrease of 75% in sales in only 2 years. But what else, other than the pandemic, influenced this? Streaming services rose significantly during the pandemic, which gave the audience easy access to films and series that otherwise would be difficult to watch. Instead of relying on cinema times, streaming services are always accessible to the audience. This type of convenience was bound to leave a mark on the cinema industry.
In 2019, Netflix had over 150 million subscribers, which sounds like a massive number, but there's still room for growth.
By the end of 2020, Netflix had over 192 million subscribers. That is a difference of 42 million in 1 year alone.
In comparison, from 2020 to 2022, there's been a gain of 31 million subscribers. And that has a huge impact on streaming services. And when there's a huge impact on streaming services, there's also an impact on the cinema. Over the years, Commodore has seen cinemas appear and disappear all over the island. Although it is a local business, Commodore Cinema is still thriving today. But I am wondering, what have they done differently to other cinemas to keep in business for over 80 years? And how long will the legacy of Commodore Cinema last?
We have arranged an interview with the manager of Commodore to uncover the truth behind how his cinema has dealt with the conflict with streaming services and the pandemic.
According to our research, cinema admissions has dropped 75%. Has similar effects happened to your cinema?
Yeah, it did initially. I mean, we were certainly probably behind by about that much when we first reopened after the first lockdown. Gradually improved, and we're still behind where we would normally be.
What changes have you made out of reaction to the pandemic?
Well, there was all the sort of initial stuff like having to put perspex screening around. We had to manage how we dealt with customers coming in, queuing, that sort of thing. We had to change our timings around so that our showings were much more staggered, so people weren't coming in and out at the same time. But the screening times and that sort of thing, we've kept them because our sort of staggered timings seem to work quite well.
Do you think streaming services is the main cause for the drop in admissions?
Certainly. I mean, things like we had last year, Encanto was quite a big release for us, the Disney film, and it came out on Disney Plus more or less the same time, so certainly harmed our admissions with that one. So that sort of thing where things are released almost immediately on streaming services, it certainly doesn't help us.
What do you think of the current state of cinema?
Improving. I mean, I think the pandemic certainly hit the movie industry as it did with everything else. So it meant that when cinemas were able to reopen, that there weren't the films to show. There's been a few sort of big releases, and they're coming sort of closer together now, because there was sort of very, very few and far between initially.
It seems Commodore Cinema is confident in their comeback to where they were in 2019, which I admire. From changing timings to keeping a COVID-friendly atmosphere, it seems they're trying to reach out to as wide of an audience as possible. But what side is the public on? Streaming services or cinema?
Seem to have run out of ideas.
I like it, it's a fun place to go.
I think for everybody who's been born in the last 100 years, it's a huge part of our life, and it's still a massive part of entertainment for us.
It's quite expensive sometimes.
It just feels like a nuisance having to get off my backside and get out of the house just to see something that I could be watching eventually on the television or on the computer.
I think that the cinema is actually okay, depending on which one you go to.
I think that it needs to be more inclusive for everyone, or it won't go further.
I like to go to the cinema because I feel like I'm really involved in the moment. Then I can't do anything else while I'm there. I'm sat there watching something and I can concentrate on it.
I don't think they're going to grow, they're going to shrink in my opinion.
I think they should all be like the deluxe one in West Quay, because it's actually a decent cinema.
The contrast of opinions from the cinema and the public are truly amazing to compare. Both views have valid arguments for the fate of the cinema industry. Although Adam is aware of the industry eventually hitting a dead end, he is confident that his cinema will last for a while longer. I have talked about the past and the present for the cinema industry, but what about the future?
It's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because I think cinema's kind of gone into decline and then come back up again in cycles over the years.
We want to be around as long as we can. I mean, our aim here is to provide good value cinema for our customers. We have a ticket price that we keep as low as we possibly can. We want to be inclusive for everybody. I think it's a great thing for Ryde to have a cinema in the town.
We didn't see the death of books when we saw ebooks, and I don't necessarily think things like a streaming service is going to see off traditional cinema going either.
We want to be available to as wide an audience as possible, so we hope to continue to be able to do that.
Technological advancements are inevitable, and streaming services will soon dominate. But once it is the end of cinema, it will also be an end of an era.